There's no way the personality can get that there's nothing that's needed, or nothing that needs to happen, or nothing that needs to be done, or nothing that needs to change in order for there to be an awakened consciousness. There's nothing that needs to be done. The personality cannot do nothing. Personality cannot do nothing. You know why?
It's a doer.
Well, yeah, it takes itself to be a separate self and a doer, but there's even a more important reason that they can't do anything.
Because then it would die.
It does.
Wouldn't exist.
Personality doesn't exist.
Well, that's part of the activity that goes on with the personality, the resistance to the truth and the denial of the truth. It wants to argue for the truth being a concept so that it can win the game. But the truth is not a concept, so it can't win the game. But the bottom line is, if it is the case that there's nothing necessary and there's nothing that needs to happen and nothing needs to be done and nothing needs to change in order for the consciousness to be the consciousness and for there to be all there is what's happening, the personality cannot do that. Not only because, there's many reasons. One is because the personality doesn't actually exist. It's not real. But the other thing is that personality lives in time and space, doesn't it? And there is no time and space. So there's no time for anything to happen. If there's no time for anything to happen, how are you going to get from where you are to where you think you need to get to?
You can't get what you already have anyway.
That's right. How are you going to get what you already have? These concepts are very important, right? Because why? Instead of talking about how screwed up you are, instead of talking about, how you as a personality is doomed to a life of endless suffering unless you get this and wake up, instead of talking about right? That's useful because it stimulates you to accelerate the process of trying to get where you already are. Right? It's useful because it gets you to try harder to get where you already are, right? And you do. You have to try harder to get to where you, because this is not going to happen until it happens. It doesn't matter what you think, right? And the whole idea that there's nothing to do, the reason that this is still such a rare occurrence, right? It's a rare occurrence for people to experience for people to be what they are. It's a rare occurrence for people to be what they are, but not because it's so difficult or complicated or paradoxical, no. It's because they think it is. It's because people think that that's the case. You think that that's what has to happen in order for you to realize the truth. When in reality, the truth is the reason it's so rare for people to experience themselves as consciousness is because it's so simple and so easy and it requires nothing. And the personality is literally incapable of doing nothing. Incapable because your orientation as a person is in time and space, right? So that's the only place you can function, right? And since this is not happening in time and space and it's not happening to you as a personality, that whole project, that whole story, that whole reality is one that will produce no result. No result. And then you get frustrated. One of the things Tony Parsons said when I was listening to him last night is he said, right now we're in a world, we're in a circumstance in the world. Human beings are in a circumstance in the world where they're very frustrated and angry about the fact that they haven't been able to succeed in their pursuit of happiness. That's what we saw a couple of weeks ago. People who are angry, ignorant, and frustrated, which that's the identity of all of humanity. Angry, ignorant, and frustrated. And they're getting more angry and frustrated because in the world that they think is the real world, they're doing everything that they see within the realm of possibility to do, and it's not working. It's not working. For anybody, I don't care, how good your story is about it. It's not working for anybody, and it can't possibly work for anybody. And then, people get into this whole thing about, oh, well, it's a horrible situation in the world right now. There's wars, and there's nuclear weapons, and there's craziness, and there's crazy politicians, and blah, blah, blah. It's a terrible situation. From the view of being the consciousness, it's not a terrible situation. It's nothing. From the view of consciousness, nothing is happening. It's all an appearance. And it's not happening to anybody. There is nobody for what's happening in the world to happen to, and there's nothing happening. I mean, I'm not saying that to be clever or to play a mind game. I'm simply throwing that out there like, here's the truth, right? I understand that when that goes into your system's going to kick it out because that's not consistent with what you consider to be reality. And what you consider to be reality isn't real. That's why it's not consistent. It's as simple as that. That's why it's useful every once in a while to listen to somebody like Tony Parsons, because he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there presenting you with the way things actually are. He's sitting there. He's sitting there expressing what's so. He's expressing the way it is that you will see for yourself at some point if your eyes open up and you can see instead of think. Because what there is, the truth is always available to be seen. It's not hidden. In fact, Tony Parsons wrote a book years ago that started his career as a spiritual teacher, whatever you want to call him. And the name of the book was The Open Secret. The Open Secret. Right? It's a secret. The only reason the truth is a secret is because people are paying attention to something that is not true. And so it seems like it's missing. But it's not missing. It's there all the time. The nothing that's happening is the consciousness that's manifesting as what appears to be happening all the time. You get this? The nothing that's happening, see, when the personality hears the word nothing, it thinks it's empty, right? But the nothing that I'm pointing to is full, not empty, it's full. So the nothing that's happening is the consciousness that's manifesting as what's appearing all the time. And it's manifesting as an appearance that's constantly changing. And that's all that's happening. It's not happening to anyone. And you are that. And that's what Nisargadatta said. I am that. I am that nothing that's appearing as everything. I am that nothing that's constantly manifesting and changing all the time. But it's not doing anything to anybody. It's just an appearance. It's just energy. They call it Layla in the spiritual teachings. It's just energy playing. It's just energy playing.
I thought you said consciousness is unchanging.
I did.
I thought you just said that it's changing.
I did say it's unchanging. Consciousness never changes. Never changes.
So what's changing all the time?
Consciousness.
Doing his best to confuse you today.
See, that's not a paradox when you see things as they are, right? When you see things as they are, it's not a paradox, right? Because if you look at the appearance, right, you're looking at it right now. If you look at the appearance, is it not true that the appearance is changing all the time? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're looking at the appearance. Now, what it is that's looking at the appearance, is that changing? And we know from the teachings, although it may not make sense to people who haven't had an experience of it, right? We know from the teachings, right, that which is changing and that which is not changing is the same thing because consciousness is all there is. It couldn't change if it wasn't changing. It couldn't change if it wasn't not changing.
Right. You receptive the yin and yang.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's balance, right? Right. But all we have in the ordinary, agreed upon conceptual consciousness that everybody's experiencing is one side of the coin. It's a one-sided coin. It's the form side. It's the side that everything's changing all the time. And within that form side in which everything's changing all the time, including the identity that people take themselves to be, they're trying to get free from the ongoing suffering that's there because of the sense of lack that they have, the sense of something missing that's there, because they're incomplete, because they're no longer connected to the source, no longer experiencing the other side of the coin, no longer experiencing that which makes this possible. Nothing has to exist for something to be there, right? Yeah, so the experience of yourself as nothing is where the freedom lies, right? Because when you experience this, when you experience the nothing that is everything, when you experience the nothing that is happening, and it's clear that you are that nothing that is happening, now you're free from the suffering of what's happening, because when you are experiencing it as the consciousness, nothing's happening. Because when you're experiencing as the consciousness, there is no time, you have no identity, all there is what's happening, but it no longer has the sting that it would have if you thought it was happening to you. You get it? It doesn't have the sting it would have if you thought it was happening to you. It's still happening, but now when the consciousness is aware of what's happening, it's aware of the personality experiencing what's happening. So nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Except there's no suffering. So that's a good story, isn't it? Good story.
Well, I'm trying to say, why do we keep coming to this?
You have no choice.
It's all
We were
about,
served.
because you get humbled.
No, nothing
peace
happens.
itself.
No, nothing happens. Nothing happens.
No.
But you see, he's making my point. Because you see, as a personality, he has no choice about what he's saying. Has no choice. Even though none of that's true. None of that's true. You didn't come here and you're not going to leave here. You didn't come here and you're not going to leave here. And I'm not just talking about the class. See, if you just keep coming back to the simplicity of it. I understand what you're saying, and from a separate self point of view, in a conceptual way of talking, that makes sense. It's a good story. It's just not true. It's just what's happening. There is no. See, the thing is this: the point of it all, is to relax. Because if the truth is true, you can be as crazy as a bedbug. You can think stupid, crazy stuff, and you can be living a crazy life, chasing money, doing all the crazy shit that people do, and you're still enlightened. You're still enlightened. Because what's true is true no matter what you think and no matter what you do, because what you think and what you do isn't really happening anyway. Right? So you're still enlightened. The people who think they're going to die, that think they did die because the body died, still didn't die. You understand? This is important to get, because if you get this, you'll realize there's nothing to accomplish here. There's nowhere to go. The only possibility is to relax. That's why in the highest teachings, that's what they say. That's what they say. The only possibility is to relax, because there's nobody to do anything. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to get to. There's nothing to do. The only possibility is to relax. And the interesting thing is, if you use meditation as a practice to relax the physical body and calm the mind, right, you are increasing the probability that the system will get relaxed enough for the eyes to see. You're increasing the possibility that the system, the nervous system that produces the thinking and the fear and all of the conceptual information, right? If you relax sufficiently and have your attention be out of that system, right? Out of that conceptual reality, the possibility of seeing things as they are has to increase. Not because you're doing it. Not because there's anything that you did, not because there's anything that you can do, right? Nonetheless, that it appears that that's what happens, that there are more people that practice meditation that wake up than are people that don't practice meditation. That's just what's so. Why is that? Because they're available. They become available, They're able to relax the system, the nervous system, and calm the mind and calm the brain sufficiently that what's true can be what's true. What's true can be what's true. The only way what's true can be what's true is if you don't interfere with it. If you think about it, you turn it into something else. Right? That's why relaxing, that's why in some of the highest systems, in some of the highest traditions, what the masters are looking at when students come before them to see if they're awake is simply they only have one thing that they're looking at with the student, right? Is the student satisfied? Are you satisfied? If you're awake, you're satisfied because there is nothing missing, there's nothing lacking. And there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do.
Non-duality.
Yeah. You're not separate from the world. You and the world are the same thing. It's just what's happening. Okay? It's very simple, very easy, no suffering. Even if in the mind of the personality that the mind has taken itself to be, even if the mind of the personality is upset, and even if the mind of the personality is suffering, the reality of yourself is still the same, untouched. Untouched. That's true.
The reality of the true self.
Well, that's all there is. See, you can test this. You can test this for yourself. You can notice when do this so you can see it for yourself. When think about the thing that's the most upsetting thing that you can think about, right? Cause that, cause yourself to get upset. Think about the worst thing you can think about. And for a lot of people, it's probably death or pain, physical pain. People, those are the common ones, right?
Yes.
But no matter what it is that's happening, physical pain, body dying, cancer, whatever it is that's happening, loss of a loved one, no matter what the drama is that's playing that would cause the upset, the awareness that's aware of that is exactly the same. It's not moved, it's not touched. So if at the time when you're identified with the voice in your head and you're in the middle of being upset about something, in the middle of that, if you're able to move your attention and look at the awareness of what's upsetting you, you'll see that the awareness is not upset. It's exactly the same as it was before you started thinking whatever you were thinking, right? So that's where that's the orientation of reality. That's the orientation of reality. And that's why if you relax and you see things as they are, things will happen. If you relax and see things as they are, things will happen, and other people will be very upset, and you will be untouched by it, and they'll think you lost your mind. And you did.
Yes, it's like you're talking about a black hole.
But that's just because if you try and conceptualize it, it turns into that. But how about if you don't conceptualize it? How about if you stop conceptualizing and you just understand you can never succeed in conceptualizing this? You can never succeed. No matter what you think about it, no matter how you feel about it, no what you learn about it, none of that's relevant and none of that makes any difference. So in the end, at some point, if the system completely fails, right, if the house of cards completely falls, right, you'll be left with the truth. Or that's not, I said that in the way that the personality would hear it. You'll be left with the truth. But the truth is, all there will be is what's happening. You won't be left with anything. You'll be left with nothing.
And all we can do is point to it. You can't explain it or...
Yeah, all you can do is point to it and be it. Because you're already being it. So what you're pointing to is yourself. Right? No matter what you point to, you're pointing to yourself. because you are all that is. You are the consciousness that is manifesting as this. Right? They say the veil that people refer to that hides reality is oneness. The veil is oneness. Right? Because you see everything as distinctly separate, right? You see everything as separate, but that what you see as separate is not separate, it's oneness, and that is the veil. You don't see that, right? You don't see that, so it's hidden. You've got to watch yourself trying to escape from something that doesn't exist until you realize clearly enough that it's a waste of energy and time, and you just give up. If you believe stories, right? See, this is the thing you have to understand. No story is the truth, right? Every personality has a story. It goes along with the personality, right? And no stories are the truth. So any story you believe becomes the world you get to live in.
I thought I had a good story.
Any story you believe becomes a world that you get to live in. So be careful about the stories you're telling. That's right. There is nobody doing anything.
Love, hate,
And unconditional love is the energy that this is. That's all. Unconditional love is the energy that this is. And since unconditional love means that there is nothing but this, there's nothing outside of this, there's nothing inside of this, there's nothing but this. Unconditional love is the energy of that, meaning that how could it not have an affinity with itself? That's unconditional love, isn't it?
energy is a concept too.
Yeah, it's all a concept. Yeah. But all of these concepts keep the personality involved because the personality is hell-bent on the idea there's somewhere to get to. Isn't it? No matter what. It won't give that up. It won't give that up. And the truth of it is you don't know why you're here. All you can do is make up a story about it.